Hey everybody, it's Jenna. Today's topic is something that I've had on my mind and my list of video ideas for a while now. It's something that can apply to virtually every fandom, but especially Marvel and DC and big franchise storytelling in movies and TV. The thing that finally inspired me to talk about it has nothing to do with these fandoms, but also kind of does in my mind. Taylor Swift announcing that she was able to buy back the masters of her first 6 albums. Now, before you click away from this video because you think you're too masculine or otherwise above hearing about Taylor Swift, wait a second, hear me out. For reasons I'll get to later in this video, this announcement fundamentally shifted things for both the fandom and what the industry at large is now capable of. It elicited a strong and genuine reaction from every single person. It completely rewrote the playbook for when and how to expect things, and it added a new energy and a sense of curiosity for the future. It was also a genuine surprise, one that fans, myself included, hadn't thought was possible, to the point of ignoring stray tabloid headlines that dared to even hint at the potential of it. The last time I remember feeling that kind of change in the air was, honestly, when Robert Downey Jr. was announced as the MCU's Doctor Doom at last year's San Diego Comic-Con. Regardless of my or your personal feelings on the casting, it was a genuine franchise-shattering surprise that shifted things for both the fandom and what the industry at large is now capable of. One that also had stray tabloid headlines ahead of time, but seemed like too big of a swing to even remotely be true. I'll be completely honest, sometimes I go back and look at this video I took of the moment just to feel something again. The announcement hit even harder because, in all honesty, genuine surprises have become so rare in the MCU and the DCU and fandom as a whole. Over time, but especially recently, these spaces have become so overrun with spoilers and scoopers and plot leaks and a sense of entitlement to the point where we've literally and metaphorically lost the plot. Spoilers have always been a point of contention. It feels like for as long as we've been able to talk with each other about stories and media, there have been the warring camps of, please don't tell me any more than I need to know beforehand, and it's your fault if you didn't hear or read or watch that story already. Even the first printed use of the word spoiler by Doug Kinney in a 1971 issue of National Lampoon takes a sort of passive-aggressive approach to it. Quote, spoilers, what are they? Simply the trick ending to every mystery novel and movie you're ever liable to see. Saves time and money. Once a piece of media is already released, the spoiler game does become something of the Wild West. Obviously, if a piece of media is years or decades old, there's a good chance that the spoiler itself is already ingrained into our popular culture, as evidenced by this threadless t-shirt that I remember seeing everywhere in the early 2010s, and that feels like such a relic that I'm honestly surprised it's still for sale in 2025. With newer pieces of media, for as long as I've been a writer, a podcaster, and simply a fan, it's been hard to define exactly how long the conversation should go without flat out spoiling things. You can block certain tags or keywords, but once people have started to see the thing and talk about it, there's always a chance of something breaking through. This is often why I spoiler blind my own tweets or videos on this channel, because I would hate to be the reason that someone learns a thing just a few hours or days before they were going to. There are some flaws in the system. For example, I was genuinely shocked to discover that Marvel Studios brought almost every major actor who cameos in Deadpool and Wolverine out on stage at San Diego Comic-Con on the movie's opening night. But I do think there's occasionally a silver lining to navigating the spoiler dilemma. If anything, your genuine love and excitement for a thing can morph into an interesting sense of urgency, motivating you to engage with it as quickly as possible instead of adding it to the pile of quote-unquote content that you'll get to eventually. I've rearranged my schedule more times than I can count, so I'm among the first to watch a new blockbuster movie or an episode of my favorite TV show, a feeling that has only felt more special amid that aforementioned ever-growing pile of quote-unquote content, a topic I will touch on later in this video. There are some ways that creators or fans are actively working to preserve the magic of a surprise. Performances of Agatha Christie's 1952 play The Mousetrap have ended with literally breaking the fourth wall and asking audiences not to reveal the killer to anyone outside of the theater. Alfred Hitchcock's 1960 film adaptation of Psycho was shrouded in so much secrecy before its release that Hitchcock is rumored to have bought up as many copies of the original novel as he could find to minimize people spoiling the ending, and repeatedly told audiences in the film's marketing campaign, quote, please don't give away the ending, it's the only one we have. Comic writer Jonathan Hickman, who brought to life the modern-day Secret Wars and the X-Men's Krakoa era, argued in a recent interview that
the thing that I am most apathetic about in the current market is covers, titles, and solicit copy being honest in any way whatsoever about what's inside of the books. I would add to that preview pages of the books that come out a couple days before the book drops. I see no value in it. There is no get for anyone. And I may be wrong. There may be a YouTube channel that has 5 million subscribers that does nothing but talks about solicit copy. Okay, I don't know. But it is kind of nice that if I could eliminate preview pages, I think I could get back to, you don't have any idea what's going to happen in the book that you're getting ready to pick up, and I love that.
And social media loves eating up videos or Twitter threads of people going in blind to a movie or a show or an album or even a concert set list and living vicariously through the joy of them experiencing it for the first time. Part of the reason why we still get this dichotomy between complete secrecy and spoiling everything from the jump is because there's really no universal reaction to spoilers. The science on the topic is somewhat inconclusive. Conflicting studies suggest that audiences have a positive, negative, or indifferent reaction to receiving spoilers ahead of time, but even then, those studies have only involved written spoilers for written short stories and not written spoilers for a story that will eventually be told in a visual medium. And there are some people who openly accept spoilers, either to decide if they want to watch something, decide if they want their child to watch something, or to satiate their own curiosity or anxiety. There's also a whole separate discourse about whether or not studios themselves are revealing way too much ahead of time. I've heard the argument that Spider-Man No Way Home and Captain America Brave New World in particular would have hit even harder if they had been able to have marketing campaigns that kept certain characters a complete secret. And honestly, I don't completely disagree with that. Problem is, across more fandoms than I can count, we've now reached the point of things being spoiled well before people are able to experience them for the first time. The piece of media might not even be released to the public yet, or might not even exist as a complete finished product yet, and yet people will feel compelled to reveal spoilers and ruin people's future experiences. This certainly isn't anything new, as this 1991 clip from The Simpsons proves.
Who'd have thought Darth Vader was Luke Skywalker's father?
Ah, thank you, Mr. Blow the Picture for me.
In the 2000s, there were also multiple stories of people shouting spoilers for books while driving past the line of midnight release parties, knowing very well that the line of people didn't even have a copy in their hands yet. But in the internet age, this compulsion has become an entire ecosystem of leaks and spoilers, which surface online well before the majority of the audience is able to see the project in question. Sometimes the information in question is posted by members of the media, as was the case for the Eternals post-credit scene and one of the aforementioned Deadpool and Wolverine cameos. Sometimes an illegal recording of a post-credit scene or a major moment is shared online, as has been the case countless times, but especially with Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame, which led to the Russo's slightly ominous Thanos demands your silence message to fans during release week. But a lot of the time, this information is posted as quote-unquote scoops by anonymous Reddit users or self-described insiders who claim to have details from a test screening or concept art or a script months or even years before the project is supposed to be released. Part of that has been a byproduct of the COVID years and the projects that have gotten delayed or retooled or outright canceled along the way, which make these scoops feel like guerrilla attempts to preserve their lost intentions or cope with a lengthy hiatus. A lot of it is also the grass is always greener mentality that I talked about in my DCU Batman video. The sense that an unsubstantiated rumor about a project is somehow better or more concrete than what you're actually going to get from the project. But a lot of it is also just to feed the beast of engagement and attention on social media, free of consequence when the information in question does or doesn't end up being true. Again, this definitely isn't anything new, as evidenced by the "my uncle works at Nintendo" meme that has been going strong in the video game community for literal decades. But it has mutated into something far beyond control, and to an extent far beyond reason. These scoops, which often boil down to just being full-blown plot points or casting surprises, get taken at face value and reported on as pieces of news or shared across social media, without any knowledge of whether or not they're actually true, and without any context of how pivotal they might be to the actual story. And even if the information doesn't end up being true, it gets spread without any respect for whether or not the fandom might want to know it already. As Roger Ebert put it in his 2005 essay, "Critics Have No Right to Play Spoiler," about the reporting and unsolicited spoiling of Million Dollar Baby, quote, "The characters in movies do not always do what we would do. Sometimes they make choices that offend us. That is their right. It is our right to disagree with them. It is not our right, however, to destroy for others the experience of being as surprised by those choices as we were." He also argued that, quote, "To actively attempt to sabotage a movie with its intended mainstream audience is not justifiable." This brings me to the other non-Taylor Swift reason for why I wanted to make this video: Superman and the Fantastic Four First Steps. I know I'm just as shocked as you are that it's taken me this long to mention either of them in a video. Part of that is because of how I'm going to mention them. Supposed plot leaks for both have been floating online for months now, and while it's been easy to avoid the actual posts, it's been difficult to avoid the conversation surrounding them. Out in the open on social media, people are grading the most recent trailers on a pass-fail metric of how much they match the supposed leaks, or using GIFs or coded messages that are impossible for other people to mute to hint at certain storylines, or taking out-of-context reactions from test screenings as a death knell for how the movies are ultimately going to be received. As it stands right now, I personally know way more about both of these movies than I would like to, and even if the things I know aren't ultimately true, I keep doing everything short of Men in Black memory wiping myself to try to ignore them, because I want my experience of actually watching these movies on their opening week to be as fresh and unique and personal as possible. There are times where I feel like a Luddite for expressing that opinion in this space, when it should, in the grand scheme of things, be the bare minimum. The funny thing is, I came up with this video idea on Saturday, only to have Doctor Who prove my point in spades literally hours later. I have loved Doctor Who for half my life, but I really only occasionally dip my toe into the week-to-week fandom and rumor mill. As a result, I had no idea what exactly was going to be happening on Saturday's season finale, only to open my phone in the middle of running errands and see a post vaguely alluding to the fact that something big had happened. Also, for the record, from this point on I'm going to dance around describing that quote-unquote something big even further, because I feel physically upset at the off chance that I accidentally spoil it for someone who's watching this video. Either way, my husband and I immediately canceled our plans for the rest of the day, ran home, and caught up to the finale, and I was able to experience the moment as freshly as I possibly could, only to get online and discover that, surprise surprise, basically every detail had already been rumored or leaked or quote-unquote scooped ahead of time, and a lot of the diehard fans were already exhausted by it. I know that this is somewhat of a microcosm, and that for every person who is spoiled on something, there are at least a dozen people who get to walk up to a multiplex or turn on their TV and enjoy the thing unspoiled. I fully expect this comment section to include people being shocked that this phenomenon is even happening at all. But in a way, that kind of proves my argument. Why have we let it get to this point? Why has actively participating in a fandom, either to make a living like yours truly or simply to just enjoy the thing, become a sort of hostage situation where anyone can weaponize or at least complicate your excitement for a thing long before you get a chance to see it? I honestly think it boils down to a sense of it's a feeling we see throughout fandom, in tribalism, in never-ending debates, in responding to box office returns and budgets and production schedules like a shareholder, but it's also a sense of entitlement that can be found in Kinney's original use of spoiler back in 1971. It saves you time and money. Odds are, if someone is already making the effort to sniff around spoiler-filled Reddit threads or anonymous Twitter accounts months in advance, they probably already care enough about that thing. They aren't some ambivalent moviegoer or concerned parent. They're already giving this project their time by doing this digging, and they're probably already invested in some shape or form in the franchise or the characters in question. But when it suddenly comes to actually experiencing the thing, they want to cut corners in a way that feels diametrically opposed with how much they supposedly care. They want to skip to the feeling of having experienced the media already, even if that's not legally or physically possible. That might be a byproduct of our current media landscape, with more things to watch and play and listen to and read than can possibly fit in one person's lifetime, the attention economy actively fighting for you to ignore all of that and just scroll social media anyway, and too many people getting way too comfortable with the use of generative AI. People are disregarding or devaluing creativity and critical thinking and just an appreciation of art, to the point where I know this comment section is going to have at least one person arguing that there's no artistry to begin with in blockbuster superhero movies. If people are already feeling that way about the fictional worlds that they supposedly love, then branching out into new genres or mediums is going to be even more difficult, and they're going to be worse off because of it. As Drew McWeeny, who has his own history with spoiler culture from the 2000s, put it in a 2016 piece for Uproxx, quote, "We've gone from reading from the menu at the restaurant to studying the menu before we go to the restaurant to asking someone to eat the meal for us and tell us how all of it feels exactly, right down to the crap they take to finally get rid of it. We can't really devolve much further, short of fandom just showing up to stand around on a set loudly telling filmmakers what to do before, after, and even during actual takes." Later in the article, he uses an analogy that I've also used on social media multiple times when complaining about spoilers. They're like opening your Christmas presents before Christmas morning. Quote, "Are we ever going to get tired of opening our Christmas presents early? And as the press, shouldn't we hold ourselves to a higher standard than people want to know?" In our modern moment, and with that entitlement I mentioned earlier, broadcasting those spoilers unsolicited not only becomes opening your own Christmas presents early, but simultaneously letting every single other kid know what's in their Christmas presents early, and then wondering why everyone is suddenly less excited for Christmas. I genuinely think there's a direct link between modern spoiler culture and the ongoing threat of superhero fatigue, both for the people actively seeking out spoilers and for the people caught in the crossfire of accidentally learning them. For the people actively seeking them out, like I said earlier, it becomes the ultimate grass is always greener mentality. Whatever rumor they're told or whatever they've imagined in their heads is somehow better than the final cut that is ultimately released. And at a certain point, that mentality becomes insatiable, usurping production schedules or common sense or any sort of genuine joy that can still be felt. And if the fanbase already knows too much going in, either because they sought it out themselves or because a random person on the internet yelled it in their general direction, then the experience is going to change. Regardless of the quality, an unexpected cameo or twist ending, or a shocking post-credit scene, or even just basic plot aren't going to hit the same, minimizing the work of hundreds, if not thousands of people in the process. Navigating all of that can feel genuinely fatiguing, and it can make it so difficult for anything to actually feel like a surprise anymore. This brings me back to Taylor Swift and the announcement that she bought back the masters for her first 6 albums. I could talk about this topic for literal hours, but just as the Cliff Notes version, from 2019 until last week, Taylor made multiple attempts to buy the rights to the original recordings, music videos, and ephemera around her first 6 albums, only for various men and private equity firms to stand in her way. Thanks to a whole legal difference between a song and a recording, she has since been able to re-record new versions of those albums, known as Taylor's versions, with new bonus vault tracks that didn't make the cut the first time around. 4 of the 6 have already been released, including 2 that were announced and released in the middle of her worldwide Eras tour, and she still kept the fandom on its toes by releasing 2 wholly new albums in between. This release strategy has led to a mountain of speculation and theories, ranging from seemingly straightforward clues to very intense math equations, trying to guess announcement dates or release dates or figure out hidden clues about the music that we haven't gotten yet. And since the Eras tour wrapped last December, at a show that I attended by the way, there have been countless attempts to predict when and how the last 2 Taylor's versions, Debut and Reputation, would be released. This effort by fans to try to one-up each other in a guessing game or to push Taylor to release something when and how they want it have led parts of the fandom to genuinely get exhausted, looking forward to the point where we can all get back to just enjoying the music, when and how it is ultimately released without trying to get ahead of it. Taylor's announcement basically delivered that in a way that no one could have predicted. It meant that fans could go back and enjoy her original work, now knowing that she would directly benefit from it, but it also completely shook up the re-recording theories. In her letter announcing the deal, Taylor revealed that the Taylor's version of her debut album is done and ready to be released at a later date, and that most of Reputation TV, which fans insisted had thousands of clues and theories suggesting it would be released next, actually isn't done because she had creatively struggled to find new ways to re-record the songs, but she would still release the vault tracks if fans are, quote, into the idea, which she knows that we are. The announcement itself was a surprise, literal years in the making, and the ramifications of it were too. For the first time in years, the fandom can't predict what might be arriving next. Sure, there will inevitably still be speculation and attempts at leaks in the future, but at the end of the day, nothing can beat the pure fun of being surprised. That feels like something that the Marvel and DC fandoms and countless other fandoms like them should remember. Being a fan isn't about running a rat race to know as much as possible and then rub it in other people's faces. It's about rallying together to actually experience the thing in question, in whatever way the creators intended for you to do so. I genuinely think this is why the Cher livestream revealing the first round of cast members for Avengers Doomsday became such a moment. Not only was it absurd enough to catch everyone's attention for an entire day, but it was unscoopable. It was exciting news delivered directly from the source because they decided it was the right time for us to know it, and it made each Cher reveal a fun little surprise. It's not just that the world kind of stinks right now, or that positive surprises are scientifically proven to help your brain. It's that you should be able to let art surprise you in good ways and bad ways. Otherwise, what's the point of experiencing it at all? How do you feel about spoiler culture? Share your thoughts in the comments below, but if you share any actual spoilers, you will be blocked immediately. And please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with your friends if you haven't already done so. Merch is available at the link in the description. As always, you can find me on social media at Hey It's Jenna Lynn. Thank you all so much for watching, and as always, go read some comics.